Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be diving in, giving you guys a very detailed and thorough review of the two new palettes that were launched from Miss Charlotte Tilbury. She launched two new instant look in a palette and I am so excited to share these with you guys. This palette is for like light medium skin tones. My top shade right here arrived shattered, FYI. So I've kind of pressed it back down in there. And then this one is for like medium to dark skin. I would have preferred her to launch one more palette. I kind of felt like we need one more palette. However, she's making an effort because the last few instant looks in a palette that she's launched, she's only launched one palette. So I see that she's making an effort, which I appreciate when brands are making the effort to change and give us more of a variety, because there's so many of us that love beauty and makeup and we all come in different colors, shapes, and sizes. So I am glad that there are two palettes instead of one like there were previously. So hopefully one day we will get three palettes. That would be amazing. These palettes retail for $75 each, and I picked both of these up on the Charlotte Tilbury website. Now with this palette, she also relaunched lip products. She relaunched these. These are called the Tinted Love. These are like a lip and cheek stain. These retail for $34 each, and I bought these when these first launched. I did a full review on them. I will link that video up in the iCards. It is an older video, so just FYI. But she relaunched these. I'm gonna just tell you guys right out of the gate, these are not my favorite lip stains. I just don't like them. It takes a lot to build the color. Like you have to work really hard to build the pigment on these. I have to reapply this like 3 or 4 times to get any pigment, even with the darkest shade. And then my lips get kind of dried out. So this is not my favorite lip stain. If you're looking for a really good lip stain, I would recommend the ones from YSL. These are, I think, about $4 more, but these are so much prettier and they kind of give your lips just a beautiful shine. So I recommend the ones from YSL over these from Charlotte Tilbury. It's not my favorite formula. Also relaunched the Love Filter lipstick, which that was kind of the whole wedding love themed lipstick launch. And they are the shades First Dance, we have Wedding Bells, and Mrs. Kisses. So I will try these on for you and of course swatch them. And I'm also wearing the Nude Romance, which you can also pick this up. She launched this a couple weeks ago and I have it. I love it. It's in the kissing formula. These three from like the wedding collection, these three are the Matte Revolutions, but this one is the kissing formula and I love it. So we're just going to be talking all about Miss Charlotte Tilbury today. Of course, you guys know I like to be very thorough, and I am going to do as many swatches and comparisons as I possibly can for the bronzers individually, the blushes individually. I have to tell you, one of my favorite things about this palette versus the previous instant look in a palette, I didn't love that the highlighter was this big. I felt like we didn't need that big of a highlighter. I just would have preferred her to even maybe put the blush right here, something. Well, what did she do? She decided to put her amazing, revolutionary Airbrush Flawless Finishing Powder, which is my all-time favorite finishing powder. I love this powder. You guys, I love this powder. So when she put this powder in this palette, it was like perfection right then and there. It was perfect because you have the blush, you have the highlight, and now you have powder. So you truly have a very travel-friendly palette. You can use all of these shades on your eyes or your face, but it's so travel-friendly because it's all in one. These palettes are perfect, especially for those that are like new to the Charlotte Tilbury brand. Maybe you haven't bought any of the quads, or you're wanting to try a bronzer or a blush formula, or even the powder formula from her. This is a great option because you're basically getting to try products for the eyes and the face all in one. This is a decent price for what you get in here as far as Charlotte Tilbury quality and the prices of Charlotte Tilbury's products overall. That's all the deets on it. Let's go ahead and jump into the application. I'm going to apply these on the face and the eye, one on each side, and then we will jump into applying the lip products so that you guys can see what the lipsticks look like. I actually don't apply these because I just don't recommend them, you guys. I'm sorry, but they are not a good formula. in my humble opinion, they are not a good formula, but I did do a full review on them, so I will link that video up in the iCards and also in the description box down below if you want to see what they look like and you want to see, you know, how they apply and stuff. And then once we get through the applications, we're going to go ahead and jump into the swatches and comparisons. Lots of swatches and comparisons in this video. And then, of course, we will jump into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into these two new palettes. I've opened them and I've got two problems. This is the darker palette. This shade right here kind of come like broken up, but I was able to kind of press it down into the palette. This one is the Glow and Beauty. This one is really broke. So this shade is broke, and you can see it kind of has like all of this stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up and I will be right back. Okay, so I've pretty well cleaned it up as good as I can. I also wanted to mention that both of the palettes have this like protector thing for the top. Okay, so now I have you guys zoomed in. The only makeup that I have on my face is foundation, concealer, my brows done, and then I did put some concealer on the eyelids just to kind of even them out. So we're gonna first go into the bronzer. For my bronzer brush, I'm gonna use the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer brush that she launched with the Airbrush Flawless Bronzers. This is one of my favorite brushes to use with her formula. So we're gonna go into the Pretty Blushed Beauty, and I'm gonna grab the bronzer and we're gonna put it on this side. Ooh, shit skis. Hold on, it's more pigmented than I thought. So I'm gonna need a brush to kind of blend it out. That brush is definitely more stiff. So it put quite a bit of pigment, like one area. So even though I got quite a bit of product, I was able to blend it out. Now that shade is showing up on my skin tone. Even though I have like a medium to tan skin, and I do have self-tanner on my face, by the way. So my skin's going to be a little bit more tan than it normally is, but I'm testing out a bunch of self-tanner products, and I've been testing a face tanner. So that's, you know, why I have the face tan on, but this looks really beautiful. I mean, it blended beautifully. So I went ahead and wiped the brush off. Let's go into the bronzer from the Glowing Beauty. This one's a little darker, and I'm going to be careful with this one because based on the last one, it's got a lot of pigment. So it's got more pigment than I expected. And when you're applying with a dense brush like this, you're going to even get more pigment. So I'm going to lightly tap this in. Oh yeah. So now I feel like I have more control. So I'm just taking the brush, dipping it and tapping it against my hand just to kind of tap off the extra. And then I'll buff it all in. Oh, that bronzer is beautiful. So this is the darker palette, and this is the like light medium palette. And of course, I think I prefer this side, but I did build this up like twice. So on my skin tone, I am able to wear both. If you're my skin tone and you decide you want the darker palette, then just go in lighter with a lighter hand and you'll be able to make it work. If you are my skin tone and you want the lighter palette, then just go in with the bronzer with a more dense, compact brush, and you'll be able to get enough pigment for it to show up. So both of these, so far, I'm able to wear as far as bronzer goes. Of course, I will swatch these bronzers next to a bunch of different bronzers I have in my collection, and I will also show you what they look like with and without a flash. I always like to show images of swatches with a flash as well, because the flash will kind of allow you to kind of see the undertone or the base of the color. Let's move on to the blush. I'm actually going to use the Sonia G Cheek Pro because all of my blush brushes are dirty. All of the ones that I prefer to use for my blush, which is the Rephr number 4, they are all dirty. So it's time to wash my brushes. So I'm going to go into the Pretty Blushed Beauty. I'm going to tap off. No, let's see, which side's the dark side? This is the light side. Oh, I mixed it up. That would have not been good, huh? Ooh, that is a pretty blush, you guys. That is a pretty blush. Very smooth, very beautiful. Oh, that's a pretty blush. I love that color. It has a little bit of radiance to it. Oh, I love that color. That color is gorgeous. Wiped the brush off. Let's go into the Glowing Beauty blush right here. Obviously, they look very similar on my skin tone. The only difference is the darker palette is a little bit more punchy, but we'll see what it looks like once I put some setting powder on, because sometimes the color will change once I buff some powder in, but they're both really beautiful and very pigmented, so that's good to know. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on some loose setting powder and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and threw on some translucent setting powder. Now I'm gonna go ahead and set the T-zone with the powder that's in the palette. So I'm just gonna take my brush and I'm gonna go into the darker palette and just put that right here. You guys see why I love this powder. You can see it right now on camera. Look at this. This just looks a little textured, a little like, obviously it's a little radiant, but look at the smoothing effect on this side. I mean, it just is, whew, it's my favorite powder. I love it so much. Oh, I love it so much. Now I'm gonna go into the powder on the lighter palette and do the exact same thing. I mean, look, it just instantly blurs everything. It's so good. Oh, love it. So let's go into the highlighter. I'm gonna take the light palette and go right there into the highlighter. Wait, which one? Which side's the light? This side. This side's the light. Oh. Okay, that shade reminds me of the highlighter in her Bronze and Glow powder. Now, it's a little bit too light for me because I've got a shadow. You guys see that shadow right there? Okay, so that highlight reminds me of the highlighter in her Bronze and Glow palette. You know how she has the bronzer and the highlight, which I have that, and I'll pull that out. I have it in the fair medium. That shade looks very similar to that. So let's go into the dark palette and put that right here. So that color for my skin tone is so much better. I mean, it blends right in, and it's definitely a better tone. So it blended right into the skin. If you put on a highlighter that's too light or too dark for your skin tone, it will cast a shadow. I'm gonna go ahead and set everything with some setting spray. We'll come back and we will jump into the eye look. So I will be right back. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into the eyes. I'm gonna first go with the light palette on this eye. And obviously the nice thing about this palette is you can use every shade on your face or your eye. You don't have to use just those top 3 shades on your eye. So I'm gonna start with this shade and we're gonna put it in the crease. I'm gonna kind of use it as a base color. Then I'm gonna go ahead and grab this shade right here. Okay, so on my skin tone, that shade is not quite dark enough to be considered a smoke shade, but I am able to build it. Now I'm gonna take the BK Beauty 203. By the way, the BK Beauty brushes are 20 to 30% off for Mother's Day. So if you guys are interested, I will leave a list in the description box down below of some of my favorite BK Beauty brushes. They're synthetic. They're fantastic. And if many of you guys don't know, BK Beauty was started by Lisa J from Lisa J Makeup. Now I am going to bring the number 3 smoke shade on the lower lash line. Kind of buff that in. I want to go into this shade. I want to see what this shade, you guys know I'm a sucker for anything peach. So I want to go into that shade and put it on the lid. I'm actually going to take my Smith 253 brush. In her 4-pan quads, she has shades that are kind of like topper shades. That's what that shade reminds me of, because it's not like super thick in texture. Of course, mine's broken, but it's not like your traditional shimmer. It seems more like a topper shade. Let's go into the shimmer right next to it. This one right here. We're gonna bring that all over the lid. And then I'm gonna dip my blending brush into that second shade. I'm gonna bring that all on top of those mattes. That's the one thing that I love about Charlotte Tilbury's formula, is that you can use her shimmer shades in the crease and they look beautiful and soft over wrinkles and texture or anything like that. It's a very unique formula for that. Not only is it pigmented, but they apply beautifully in the crease. So one of my favorite formulas. So I'm going to go into the highlighter of this palette and kind of bring that right into the inner corner. Now I'm going to dip my finger into the peach shade, and I've got it right here, and I'm going to press it like right on the center just to give that pop. One more thing to add a little bit of depth. I'm going to take my flat definer from Sigma, and I'm going to go into this shade right here. I am going to pop that right on this lower lash line just to add some of that definition, just to give it a little bit more of a smoky effect. So I'm going to bring it right here on the upper lash line. Give it some smoky effect and kind of tipping the brush, not really creating a wing with it, but creating that lift with it. Now we're going to move on to the next palette. So I'm done with this look. Easy peasy. Let's move on to this palette. And obviously this one has a little bit more of her traditional kind of rosy tones to it. In all honesty, even if you have a lighter skin tone, if you like these colors, you could use all of these as a palette. You definitely would not need to use this on the face. We're gonna go ahead and grab the bronzer, and I'm gonna use the bronzer in the crease, kind of doing the exact same kind of steps that I did on the other look. Now, obviously the bronzer is not going to be as pigmented as a traditional color like that would be for the eyes, because the bronzers are meant to be more of a buildable formula and not necessarily like an instant pigment like you would get with a traditional brown eyeshadow, but you can totally build this color to work here on this outer corner. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but on this eye, I have a little bit of a fold. So it's a tiny bit of a hooded eye. On this side, it's fully deep set. As I've gotten older, this eye has become a little bit more hooded. You can totally see how, I don't know how it happened. It just decided to become more of a hooded eye, which I'm not mad at it. I actually like the way that my eyeshadow blends here with the hooded versus being super deep set on this side. This eye is still deep set and I still have a lot of landscape to work with, but I still, you know, I'm getting that fold in there and it's so funny. And also the outer corner. Now I'm going to take the Esum 27 brush and I'm going to grab this eye contour, or this eye smoke shade right here. I'm just going to lightly tap this into the outer corner. I'm going to bring whatever's left on the brush onto the lower lash line. The shade's pretty pigmented, so it goes a really long way. But let's go into the brighten shade right here. Let's place that on the lid. I'm going to dip my brush into the shade Brighten and sweep it over top of the crease. I want to go into this number 2 shade, so I'm going to put some here on my finger, and yeah, that just gave it some sparkle and some shine, and I am kind of here for it. So let's go into the highlight, and let's put the highlight on the inner corner. Okay, for me, I like a little bit brighter of an eye, so I'm going to go into the light palette and just pop it because I like a little bit more brightness right there on the inner corner. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to take my flat definer from Sigma and I'm going to go into the number 3 and focus that right here on the outer corner and just really deepen it up. I'm also going to do that on the outer corner here, but kind of tipping the brush as I like tap it in just to kind of give a little bit of a soft lifted effect. I'll probably use a brown eyeliner on both upper waterlines. I always like to put a brown eyeliner right on the upper waterline. So I'm going to go ahead and throw on some mascara, and we'll come back and I will try on the lippies that were relaunched with this collection. So I'll be right back. So this is the final look for the eyeshadow tutorial, and yeah, you can just, they don't really look that much different because I did kind of do them the same because I wanted you guys just to be able to see the difference in the tones. So that's kind of why I went the same direction and applied them the same and applied kind of the same shades in both palettes in the same place. Let's go ahead and jump into the lips. So she went ahead and relaunched these 3 lipsticks that I have. They were from the Love Filter collection, I think is what they were called. Now, she also recently launched the shade Nude Romance, so I will try this one on. I've had this one for a while. I don't think I've talked about it on camera. So these are the 3 lipsticks that were relaunched. So let's start with the shade Nude Romance. Let's put that shade on really fast. So this is what the Nude Romance looks like on my skin tone. It's in the Kissing formula. And this is a peachy nude, and it's definitely a peachy nude. I've actually worn it several times since I got it. I really like the color, but I do like a peach base lipstick. Peach always goes a little bit better with my skin tone. I'm a medium to tan with like a golden undertone, and anything peach on my skin tone really pops. So I prefer my nude lipsticks to have a peach base, so this one is one of my favorites. Okay, let's try on the 3 lippies from the Love Filter. So this shade is Wedding Bells. This is in her Matte Revolution. So this lipstick is the original. It had the little kiss embossing on it, but the new embossing looks like it has this heart on it, like these, like it looks like this. It has this heart that's on the Tinted Love. So this is described as a delicate rosebud pink. Nice thing about her Matte Revolution formula is that it is a little bit more matte, but it doesn't dry my lips out. It's one of my favorite like matte lipstick formulas for that reason. So next up we have the First Dance, which is also the Matte Revolution formula. And this is described as a blushed berry rose lipstick for a pretty rose petal pout. So this is First Dance, and this is just absolutely beautiful. This is the darker of the 3. Then we have Mrs. Kisses. Mrs. Kisses and Wedding Bells are very similar in tone, but Mrs. Kisses is described as a magical golden peachy pink lipstick with a beautiful matte finish because it is in the Matte Revolution formula. So this is Wedding Bells and this is Mrs. Kisses. Mrs. Kisses is a little bit darker, just a tad bit darker than Wedding Bells. I wouldn't suggest getting both of them because they are so similar in tone. I mean, you can see they're almost the exact same shade. The only difference is Mrs. Kisses is just a tad bit darker. So depending on if you want it to be a little bit lighter or a little bit darker, but they are very similar. That's it for the lipsticks. Let's go ahead and jump into the swatches and comparisons. We are going to do a lot of comparisons from the 2 palettes to a bunch of other palettes that I have from Charlotte Tilbury. And then of course we will jump into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. All right, I am back. I hope that those swatches and comparisons were very helpful for you, and I really love these palettes. These palettes are everything I needed. It was like she took all of the favorites that I love and put it all into one palette. And personally, I love that she put the powder in there because this is what I will be taking on vacation. This kind of condenses it all into one for me. Personally, for my skin tone, I think I do prefer the medium to dark palette. However, I am able to use this light medium palette. Like I said in the application, I'm still able to use this because this shade is very buildable. Overall, I love both of these palettes. These are my favorites of her look in a palette. The two palettes that I have are the Stone Rose Beauty. So this is the Stone Rose Beauty. And then I also have the Gorgeous Glowing Beauty. And for me, these are okay, right? I like them. I think they're very beautiful. But these palettes, these are everything that I love about Charlotte Tilbury condensed into one. And I love these. I gotta be careful flipping them around. I love these. I think these are fantastic. I love the packaging. In fact, I like the packaging on this way more than I do this. I just do. I think these are beautiful. These are very beautiful. Like, they get an A+. I absolutely love them. I mean, this is like the everyday beautiful makeup look. The blushes are very pigmented. Very pigmented. As you saw in the swatches, it has a beautiful radiance to it. And oh my gosh, I love it. I'm so happy to have these palettes in my collection, and I actually don't necessarily regret having both of them. To me, the powders in both palettes look exactly the same. I don't see a difference between them. I have shade 1 Fair and also 2 Medium. There is a difference between these two powders, but I'm not seeing a difference between these two powders in this palette. I'm just not. I feel like they're both the same shade. But those are my overall thoughts, you guys. Love these palettes. She knocked it out of the ballpark. I love them. Whoo, I love them. They are fantastic. Sound off down below in the comment section. So let us know. Did you guys pick up these palettes? If you did, are you liking it? Are you not? What has been your experience with these palettes? You guys know that your opinion matters just as much as anyone else coming on behind a camera and expressing their thoughts. So definitely share with us in the comment section down below how you guys feel about these palettes and what your experience has been. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.